Hello, my name is Frederick Abuya. I serve at Focus as the Research and Publications Officer, and it's a pleasure to have you, and I'm here just to help us highlight and appreciate the issue of LGBTQ, and the reason as to why it's quite an area of concern, not just in the world, but particularly now within the African context. We must appreciate that this is an issue that has been quite common in the Western world, but quite talked about in low tones in the African context, largely because the African culture treats it as a taboo. But because of that, then there's a way in which the church in Africa, and particularly in Kenya, has not given it quite attention as an area through which God has called us to apply our mission or responsibility and ministry to the people who may be affected in one way or the other. Now, as far as this issue of LGBTQ is concerned, one of the trends that has been observed in the recent past is that even though the African culture is not accepting to it, there is an increasing sense in which the tolerance and acceptance levels continue to grow across the Africa. Actually, according to the survey that was done recently, the acceptance level is at around 21-22% across the African continent, varying from one country to another. But one interesting trend is that in countries that have scored the highest or shown the highest acceptance or tolerance level of LGBTQ practices, basically countries down the South African belt of the African continent, those countries, there's an association between the legal infrastructure as far as the sexuality, human sexuality is concerned, and acceptance level. There's kind of some nexus between the two. And so most of the countries with the highest acceptance level are the countries in the Southern Africa part of the continent. And these countries have a legal framework that is accepting to the practice of homosexuality, and so emboldens the LGBTQ and the LGBTQ agenda and the practices. Now, as part of our core ministry, Focus Kenya has picked LGBTQ as an issue of concern that then needs to be addressed, we need to give a response to it from a biblical perspective. And because of that, we have put together a Bible study material that will help people reflect from the scripture how the scripture speaks into that same issue. And so this Bible study guide is a rich scripturally based material that will help us reflect on this issue of LGBTQ, covering an array of topics and areas as far as this issue. One of the areas the guide covers is on the whole issue of sin and corruption of God's creation. We are in a world that what is seen as keep on changing, and yet that change does not make what the Bible calls sin to change. It remains the same. So the guide covers that bit, sin, the corruption of God's creation. But the second issue that the guide covers, as far as even the issue and the struggle with LGBTQ is concerned, is the question of family, God's design. So the guide also focuses on that. And the third area is on the issue of marriage, God's way and in God's design. But the fourth issue is on the whole area of sex, human sex and sexuality, because that's a big area. As we talk about LGBTQ, that's a core area on this LGBTQ agenda. But fifthly is the question of freedom and human sexuality. And actually, freedom is one of those, and human rights is one of those legal underpinnings that then the advocates of LGBTQ agenda are using across board to legislate on the area of LGBTQ and crafting human sexuality around LGBTQ as a human right, and then pushing it across the countries, different countries, to include it in their legal framework, therefore giving a legal backing for the LGBTQ and the LGBTQ practices. And the sixth issue is the question of gender and human identity, gender and human identity in God's design. And so this guide covers a raft of 6 core issues that are critical as far as this area of LGBTQ is concerned. And we are persuaded that the church in Africa needs to begin thinking about this, not just from a point of praying about it, which is good, but also from a point of asking themselves a question as far as what kind of response then should the church give on this area. And so this material is meant not just for the young people, but it's meant for usage even in the local church, because we appreciate that the issue at hand does not discriminate. It affects people, old, young, people of all walks of life, all careers. And so this material is a first of its kind in the country, and we hope that it will be of benefit to the young people in campuses, but also to the local churches across the country. So I want to welcome all of us to pick it and have it used in your local churches, in your Christian unions, for your youth, and all cadres, in your families and all cadres of people across board. So thank you so much. We wish that this material will have the intended impact, but also that our local churches and our pastors will have, their capacity will be built enough, and even our families know how to respond to these issues when we come across them, when they hit closer home. So thank you, and we wish you all the best as you go through the material. Thank you.